Good morning. Good morning. What's up, everybody? I'm actually in the middle of a draft right now. So I'm going to finish up this draft and then another draft. So that's how we're going to do it today. These dinger drafts have been filling up pretty quick. So that is the exciting part of this. So I'm anticipating streaming for about an hour. And obviously, if you have any questions, if you're watching this right now, it's on replay anyway, so I'm going to miss any of your questions. But either way, hope everybody's having a great week. Happy Wednesday, hump day. Hump day. I guess I'm supposed to be like hump day. Something like that. You know what time it is? What day it is? I'm trying to remember. Was that like a Geico commercial? Guess what day it is? Hump day. We know what day it is. Okay, so anyway, happy Wednesday. Let's see. We are midway through. In case you didn't notice, I'm picking 12. So I think the interesting thing here, one thing, if you've drafted a lot on Underdog, one thing that you'll notice is if you draft consecutively, you tend to be right around the same spot. Last night, I got the first pick in the draft. This is probably about 9 o'clock at night. I got the first pick in the draft, and I have not been picking on the front of the draft very often at all during Dinger. So I was excited because I finally got to pick in the top 4. So, what was it? No, it must have been like 10 o'clock. So I jumped into another one right after, and I picked 4th, and I was struggling getting through. And by like 11:30, 11:45, I was actually had to get up, walk around to stay awake to finish the draft. So I would have liked to have just continued pounding draft entries as long as I could get in the top 4. So I woke up this morning, got things situated, jumped into a draft, hoping I would still be in the top 4. I was 12th. So we're going to do another draft right after and see if I end up on the back end or if I jump back into the front end. Unfortunately, I do have some other things I need to work on today. But so if I get on the front end of the draft, it's not like I can just keep pounding that all day, unfortunately. Let's see where we're at. So you're not able to see the whole team, but right now it's 4-4-6. So I definitely need some started pitching and some infield help. My outfield's completely done. And if you're curious, it's Tatis, Duran, Brian Reynolds, Michael Harris, Spencer Steer, and Stephen Kwan. And now I got to fill the rest of this out with pitching. And we're kind of at that point in the spring where some of the pitching is starting to get annihilated, unfortunately. So I'd really like to take 2 pitchers right here, but it's just not going to happen. I'm going to end up taking Ryan McMahon because I only have 4 infielders. And I don't have 2 top shelf infielders. Ideally, I would have been able to pick up 1 stud in the first 3 rounds and then another solid infielder. And then you're kind of going with some guys who you think can produce. That did not happen. Being 12th, all the infielders that I wanted to take were already drafted. So I ended up going outfield in the 3rd and 4th rounds. Boy, I'm going to have to take a picture here. Okay, it's going to come back at 204. So who do I expect not to be there at 204? So I'm going to reach on a pitcher right here. So I'm going to take Ryan McMahon because I do need infielders. And I could go double infield, but my pitching is just not good enough for me to play that game right now. And on the pitching standpoint, my options are Barrios, Eflin, Gill, Woodruff. And I don't feel like any of those guys are draftable given my current situation with my pitching. So the next 3 options are Evaldi, Hawk, and Pepiot. So I'm actually going to reach and take Tanner Hawk. Um, all right. Yeah, let's do that. And I don't love that because realistically, I would have liked to have just like taken a Valdi and pressed my luck to see if Hawk and Pepe would have made it back, but probably not going to make it back. All right, let me queue up a couple pitchers when it does come back. So I'm going to end up with 7-7-6 in this draft. So 7 pitchers, 7 infielders, and those 6 outfielders are solid. So assuming everybody stays healthy, Spencer Steer already hurt. I think Spencer still be fine. I'm actually going to queue up Job. Let's look at these infielders real quick. Wilson Contreras, Josh Young. I do not mind taking guys like Horner or Neto. They should be back within a couple weeks, so I'm not going to sweat missing a game week or two. Okay, so we'll kind of see how this shakes out. I might actually just go pitcher too. Wow, there goes Jackson Jobe at 188. Dalton Varsho 186. I guess that's about right. What's interesting is there's always a recency bias, and we saw it last year with O'Neal Cruz. Like people started going nuts because O'Neal Cruz was hitting everything out last year during spring training. So all of a sudden you get this recency bias, and everybody, like we were seeing O'Neal Cruz go in the 3rd round, 4th round, and it was a little wild. But and granted, spring training in Florida is a little different than spring training in Arizona. However, you get warm weather, the ball carries better, and you really start to get some solid offensive numbers. One thing that will be interesting is the rise of guys like McClanahan, Alcantara, Jackson Jobe, Walker Buehler, as we start to see more of these guys in spring. As long as they're healthy and they have reasonable control, they're going to start to move up. I mean, McClanahan is an absolute stud. Alcantara was a stud, and then even before he got hurt, he was just getting hit all over the place. So I know they're talking about like, oh, his velo's up, but his velo wasn't the issue before. He was throwing very hittable fastballs. Okay, so there goes Evaldi. There goes Eflin. Did my guy? Yeah, my guy went. My guy Pepe went. Okay, so I'm going to be in a tough spot here. I'm going to have to take Chris Bassett. If I'm lucky, which I do, this is actually, you'll notice there's a lot of shields in here. A lot of underdog users who have their shields up. So these are well-seasoned veterans. And when you get in a draft like that, everything is pretty much chalk. So you don't see a lot of guys overreaching. And you don't normally get a lot of guys who fall to you late. I think Marcus Semien was like that one guy this draft that fell down. I'd love to take Contreras. I think Contreras is going to have a really nice season. So, and it looks like I'll have that opportunity. So I'll take Wilson. And then I'll take Bassett. I do like Contreras. When I looked at his numbers from previous years, part of the problem with Contreras when he catches is that he gets hit at the plate a lot. Not when he's hitting, although he does, but he tends to get hit a lot when he reaches. And that's a problem for him. So him being at first base, you're kind of hoping that's not going to happen, and we might actually see him play 150 games. How well is he going to hit with 100 if he gets to hit 150 games? So the 600 plate appearances, like that could be really interesting. And I'm sure he'd like to out-hit his younger brother, who has been raking. So I think Contreras is exceptional value at 204. I was taking him at like 215 a couple weeks ago. And then it seemed like everybody figured it out and he started flying up. I do not expect Neto to come back. That's okay. What I am going to do quickly is I'm going to jump into another dinger so that way our downtime is minimal. All right, we need 8 people in the next dinger, so we're good. Boom, 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 boom. So we should be the timing actually should work out pretty good. So it's a beautiful day out here in Arizona, though. Spring training. I'm going to head to a game today. I was going to, I think I've been to 6 games already, mostly because I'm really close to one of the ballparks. So I could literally walk to the ballpark. So I'm going to go today. I think the Reds are playing. I have no idea who they're playing. But McLean has been looking really good so far this spring in the games I've attended. Okay, what do I need? So I'm kind of dumpster diving here at the back end of the draft, right? Neto's probably not going to be there. I'll queue up guys like Bogarts, Hoskins. Excuse me. There's a lot of really solid ball players here, like Edman, Geloff. I like the idea of Brandon Lowe. Bryson Stott's not bad. And then you kind of got to reach like Jimenez, Mountcastle. I've taken Josh Bell a few times that I was going through. I guess I can, if we have time in between, I'll show you guys. I'm working on some, I'm working on a fancy spreadsheet that kind of breaks down how players perform last year on a week by week basis. It's a lot easier to do on DraftKings just from an input standpoint, but and I'm sure there's probably a way if I knew how to like scrape data that I could just scrape the data, put the scoring system in, and it could fill it in for me. But what's the fun of that? I'm just going to go through every single player's results on a week by week basis from last year and punch them into a spreadsheet. So I'm almost done. Not every player, just players I had some interest in. I need to queue up a pitcher, don't I? Nestor, Merrill Kelly. Where's my guy Waka? Waka. Yeah, I think that's gonna do it. There's Charlie Moore all the way down to 239. So I do like Brandon Lowe. Brandon Lau. Ooh, I think it's Brandon Lau. And if you look back, you're like, man, 2021, he dropped 1,400 points. That's great. Obviously, his issue is being able to stay healthy. Walker, Casas, Tovar, Paredes, McMahon, Contreras. Interesting. I'm actually going to go with Tommy Edman here. Not too far away from a couple 1,200 point seasons himself. I feel like that's a really good value for him. And then from a pitcher standpoint, this is kind of tough. I'm going to go with Merrill Kelly. I don't love it. It's like Merrill Kelly or Walker. What are you going to do, right? Okay, so we're going to stick in here for a second. We still have plenty of people that need to fill the dinger in. Give me just a second. Bear with me while that finishes. I did not actually send out any tweets. So let's do that real quick. Okay, that should work. And we'll go here. Don't know why there are 4 notifications on case. Don't worry, we're still here. It's almost finished. One thing we're going to do really quick is we're going to take a short look at the last 2 rounds of this draft. We still need eight people in the next stinger, so we have a little time to kill. But I do want to take a look at this. Here we go. All right, so let's see what we've got going on here. So the last 2 rounds, I'm just going to throw names out that sound somewhat interesting. The fact that McCarthy dropped to 219 is interesting. Normally he's going around 210. Sometimes I'll see him go all the way up to like within the 180s. Royce Hoskins. I'm really intrigued by Hoskins because I'll look real quick, but I feel as though his bat speed was an issue last year. Let me see. But he was coming back from injury. It seemed like he wasn't quite right. We might actually get Royce Hoskins. Like the old Royce Hoskins might come back. He's 31 this year, but his bat speed was only 38. Now, the problem is we don't have any bat speed previous to that, but it felt like it always was a little better than that. Now, his max exit velocity was normally around 111 or 112, and it was 109 last year. So, his launch angle was about the same. His exit velo was down a little bit. There's not a lot of numbers here that you can look at and go, well, I mean, his sweet spot, he definitely wasn't hitting the ball on the sweet spot. He was down about 5 percentage points. And obviously that's going to have a little bit of an impact. His hard hit ball was a little down. His K rate was up a little bit. We don't know if he wasn't playing through injury all year, but finally he's going to come back. And this is a guy who's really intriguing because, keep in mind, 2018, 2022, 30 home runs. He's an RBI guy. Nice slug, typically like 450 to 500. And last year he only slugged 419. So, yeah, I'm intrigued by him. I have not drafted him a lot. I would probably only take him if I was pretty secure in my infield and said, okay, well, let's take Hoskins and see if he can hit 30 home runs. He's in a division where he's going to see, I guess, poorer pitching than he would see in the NL East. And the ballparks are smaller. But either way, I do think Hoskins is intriguing. Whoa, we're almost full on this draft all of a sudden. Let's see who else is in here. Morel, that's interesting. Morel, everybody's pretty hot on Morel last year. Xander, Nestor, I took Tommy and Kelly. De La Cruz in somewhat of a platoon role in Atlanta. Don't love that. Casey Mize, is he finally going to be that guy? Bubba Chandler may not break camp with the team, so that's risky. Yeah, I love the Bryson Stott in the last round. We'll see how that goes. I know that I'll double check this, but our friends over at Jason Martinez over Roster Resource earlier this or last month had Stott in a platoon role. He still does in a platoon role with Edmundo Sosa. So that's a little scary. Most of the projections still show he's going to get 600 plate appearances, though. And then Brandon Lau I do like that simply because if he can stay healthy, I guess even if he doesn't stay healthy, if he just stays healthy-ish in that AAA ballpark they're going to play in, the one with the same dimensions as Yankee Stadium, then that could be really interesting. Okay, here we go. So, draft just filled. You can tell I'm a little excited. So what we were trying to figure out, what I was trying to figure out, we collectively were trying to figure out is last night, end of the night, I draft first, I draft fourth. This morning I wake up and I draft 12th. So is Underdog pushing me to the back end, or am I going to be able to come back to the front end and I'm fourth? So just went from 12th to fourth. That's nice. One thing you'll notice if you draft a lot on Underdog is there tends to be a common thing that you will get stuck in a spot. I'm just happy I'm in the top four. So first or second is great for me, but top four means I'll get either Soto or Witt, and I don't have any problem with that. All right, here we go. Who else is in here? Anybody? No, nobody's in here. I don't know any of these people. All right, so I'm assuming, let's see, we have a pretty, look at that. We've got 7 out of 12 shields, so we could definitely see some interesting decisions here. I am not a red shield. I think you have to have 500 drafts on Underdog or finish like as a champion or something. So here we go, Bobby Witt. So thrilled about Bobby Witt. That's beautiful. So then it's going to come back at 21. The nice thing is when you draft in the top 4, you're getting an absolute stud. Not that Ellie De La Cruz doesn't have that upside, just that I think there's still some question marks there in his game. And Kyle Tucker's fantastic, but realistically, the rest of these guys after Ellie De La Cruz are all kind of guys that you could draft anywhere between 6 and 10, maybe even 11. The last draft I was in, I ended up getting Tatis at 12. So you just don't know exactly how it's going to play out. Depends on who, not only who you're drafting with, but also who they've drafted prior. If I have a team and I draft a lot of Tatis, then I'm going to try to get some extra exposure, and I might go Corbin or I might go Jordan. I mean, Tucker dropped all the way to 9. Here's Gunnar. Here's Jose. Okay, no big surprises. So at 21, I don't really feel very comfortable with a lot of guys in this range. I was taking Freeman a lot, and the news came out that Freeman's probably not going to play day games after night games, which is a concern. I don't love that. At the same time, 5 or potentially even 6 days of Freddie Freeman. Does that mean he's not going to play on Sundays? Like that's concerning. Is he potentially going to play 5 days or 4 days in a week? I'm assuming it also depends on if they have a day off the next day, because they can't DH him. That is the downside, if there is a downside to having Ohtani, is you can't use anybody else in the DH. So if you've got a guy like Betts or Freeman who are could use a day off, but they could still hit, but you don't want to put them in the field, or they're kind of making their way back from the IL, put you in a tough spot. All right, I've noticed that Churio's been going a little higher lately. Here he's ahead of J-Rod and Duran. So 21, all the fun guys are going to be gone for me. I'll queue up Rooker, Olsen, Freeman, and then what's going to come back at 28, that also puts me in a tough spot. So, and then it's going to come back around when it comes back around at 45 and 52. I'll likely go outfield. 69, I'll go outfield, and then 76, I'll probably hit up Quan, and then I can just focus on infield and pitching. All right, so I still have Duran's there, so somebody's going to take him and break my heart. Wow, somebody just took Rooker. Oh, you know, I had a shred of hope, a shred. As much as I would really love to take Freeman right here. Olsen was absolutely miserable last year. I mean, I'm going to take him right now. Am I? Yeah, I'm going to take him. Because they said Freeman is basically going to do this schedule until the All-Star break. Now, I don't know how much validity there is to it, but I don't love that idea. So we'll just kind of have to see how this works out. Freeman's a guy who does love to play every single day, so his ankle must be pretty janky right now. All right, what do we got going on? All right, so if you are jumping in, feel free to punch that like button and subscribe. We got a new subscriber. Welcome. All right, so I picked up Olsen. Wow, look at Pete Alonso going 22. That is a huge jump. So for me, I'm going to target guys like Bryce Harper, Austin Riley. I'm going to look at my little cheat sheet back here. Bryce Harper. Yeah, Harper's pretty great. Yeah, so I went Olsen. So because I went Olsen, I'm going to go Riley. If I would have went Freeman, I'd probably end up going Harper here. But I'm just going to go A's. Even Ozuna's gone. We'll see where Wyatt Langford goes. You know, I have an opportunity. I'm going to show you guys this real quick. So let me switch the stream. I should be able to. So give me a second. I'm going to get really in your face. Oh, no, we don't want to do that. I'm going to do this. Hey. Is it not going to? Here we go. All right. I'm going to show you my my spreadsheet here. So this is the sheet I was talking about. It's not completed yet, but here's all the data. So you can see like Gunnar Henderson, and I have it highlighted. So if a guy scores more than 50 points in a game week, then, or I should say in a week, then they're highlighted in green. If they score between 40 and 50, they're in yellow. And if they score under 40, then they're in red. So you'll notice as we go further down, like Machado was coming back from injury last year. He played through it, but 6 of the 16 weeks he scored under 40 points. That's brutal. And then obviously the higher scoring guys, Witt, Henderson, De La Cruz, they're up here. And I have it sorted by the amount of average per week, average score per week kind of thing. And then I'm working on one right now for the pitchers. Now, part of the reason I'm working on this is because I love to be able to analyze all this data. So I want to get this data. I want to be able to look through it. I'm trying to find small edges. Oh, let me switch this back here. I wish I could just switch it back without having to like kill the whole thing, but it is what it is. Okay. But I'm trying to look for small edges. And I'll tell you, this draft right now is not that. It is definitely not that. I got so caught up in the stream that I did not realize I've taken 3 infielders. And I don't even love Olsen and Riley, so that's not a great look. Not that I had a ton of options, but that's just kind of the way it played out. Rooker's definitely been rising. Man, I could grab Machado right here. Not going to grab Machado. You know who is interesting? Zach Wheeler is right here. Man, Zach Wheeler is really intriguing here. Really intriguing. I'm not going to take him. I'm going to go Nemo. Keep in mind, Nemo's already got a foot issue with plantar fasciitis, and he's got a sore knee right now. So spring is not starting out well for Nemo. But the problem is Adolis Garcia, who is actually really starting to move up in the rankings, he's got a strained oblique. Undergoing MRI on oblique. So you know how obliques are. I mean, that could be realistically, he could be back in a week. He could be back in 2 months. Obliques are real touch and go. So Langford strained his oblique, I think a week and a half ago, and it looks like it's pretty mild, so he's going to be back. But it's brutal. Somebody took Doyle at 49. That's interesting. Whale boy over. I was hoping to take Suzuki on the way back at 52, but that just does not look like it's going to be in the cards. Oh my gosh, Wheeler made it back at 52. Okay, that's just going to be a thing. Wheeler was, when I was going through these numbers last night, the pitcher numbers, Wheeler was just so consistently dominant, much more so than any other pitcher. And so much so that I started considering taking him in the back of the third, because there are a couple drafts where I've taken Skeens and I've taken Scooble, but I don't really have a lot of Wheeler exposure. And part of that over the last couple of years was I was just worried about Wheeler and Nola with not having enough tread on the tires going through the postseason the way they did. The fact that the Phillies didn't go to the World Series last year makes me feel a little more comfortable with guys like Wheeler and Nola because they finally got a little rest in the offseason. So watching Wheeler's numbers and his performance on a week-by-week basis when I went through the numbers last night was really impressive. So as much as I need an outfielder, I'm going to have to get very creative here with the outfield situation, especially if Garrett Cole comes back to me at 69. But I'm going to need to get real creative here, which probably is going to mean like JJ Bleday, Kerry Carpenter. Yeah, we'll just see how this plays out. So we're at pick 60, and Adolis Garcia is still there. So everybody obviously knows like this could be really bad. I'm going to queue up Luis Robert, Colton Cowser, Stephen Kwan. I like Jason Dominguez when I was able to take him in the 90s. I do not love Jason Dominguez and Dylan Cruz in the low 70s, though. Which, I mean, it's fine. Somebody else can take them. Spencer Steer obviously is hurt. He's got a bum shoulder. I took him in my last draft, though. I'm sure you guys noticed that. I'm not encouraged to take any infielders right now because I'm obviously very heavy on the infield side. And I'm going to queue up Raggins and Garrett Cole. So that's how we're looking. So Spencer Steer did get picked. Well, this will be interesting. If Raggins or Cole makes it to me at 69, I'm going to be in a tough spot. There goes Cowser. All right, this draft is definitely a bit all over the place. Okay, there goes Luis Robert, unfortunately. So the question is, do you want to draft Adolis Garcia and see what happens if he misses the first month? I'm not in a position where I can do that. I think somebody like Whale Boy is, because he's already got 4 outfielders. I can't do that. So for me, I'm going to end up taking one of these pitchers and then taking Quan. My outfield is going to be an absolute dumpster fire this draft. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to take calls. Really hoping I was going to get Reagan's. That's okay. Zach Wheeler, Garrett Cole, fantastic. I'm just going to take 7 outfielders, maybe 8. It's going to be that kind of draft. So it's going to come back around. I am planning on taking Stephen Kwan. We'll see how this plays out. I think less is more also. Actually, no. Maybe Danny could have taken Garcia there. Less is more has Acuna already, so that's kind of a tough spot for him. All right, Will Boy going Snell. Wow, he did not go Garcia. That's interesting. It's like the NFL draft when a guy just starts tumbling. Because I would really like to take Garcia, and it looks pretty obvious for me that I should take Garcia. But I've only got 1 outfielder, and my outfielder's already banged up, being Nemo. All right, let's do it. This draft is already screwed. Quan was the safe pick. And when I broke down Quan's numbers, I was really impressed. And Quan is definitely the safe pick. But we're just going to roll and see what happens here. I may end up with Lane Thomas. Tyler O'Neill, that's probably going to be a thing. This draft is just going to go completely by the wayside. This is one of those drafts that I look back on and I finish in like 11th and I'm like, what happened? And then I look at my outfielders and go, oh, okay, 3 of my guys were injured and then the other 4 were just very mid. That's probably going to be me with this draft. But on the plus side, I've got 2 stud pitchers. There goes Kirby. I would have loved to have had Kirby fall. I'll probably grab another pitcher here soon. And I'm going to try to just get 6 solid pitchers. And that way I can just really focus on, the outfield. So as an outfielder comes, I'll grab him. But I'm probably just going to supplement that with pitching and kind of neglect my infielders, which is tough because for those of you who've been drafting an Underdog, you know that there's a really nice pocket of outfield or of infielders that basically are between like where I'm at, like 93 and 124. There's a nice pocket of infielders. So realistically, if I would have, if we could go back to the second round, Dusty taking Duran right there really changed the landscape of my draft. Because if I would have been able to, I was going to take Rooker. Rooker gets picked at 19 by Jobber Jim. Duran almost makes it to me, crushes my dreams, right? And then I take Olsen. If Merrill comes to me, I take him. If Ozuna comes to me, I take him. I would have taken Teo. I'm just not taking Langford or Harris or Santander at 28. Okay. Lane Thomas is there. We're only 3 picks away. I'm staying away from infield. Oh my gosh. They went on that run with the pitchers. And now I basically got Yamamoto. And I really don't want to take Yamamoto. Now, if you're wondering why I don't want to take Yamamoto, it's mostly because the Dodgers in their 6-man rotation. Well, I'm not going to have to worry about it because he just got picked. So, yeah, I don't really love the idea of the Dodgers in their 6-man rotation because sometimes you need that. You need your stud to have a 2-start week. And if you're never going to get a 2-start week out of your guy, okay, so I'm going to take Lane Thomas. I haven't taken Lane very much. Whoa. Just because Lane just kind of nosedived last year. Breaking news out of the NFL. Bengals defensive end Sam Hubbard is going to retire. That's wild. He's only 29. That's crazy. Well, good for him. Not to get too distracted here. Played 7 years in the league. Only had 2 sacks this last year. Anyway, I better make this pick. Are you ready for Tyler O'Neill? Okay, so I all right, so I think the last thing I need to do is also grab another injury-prone outfielder, even though I love that. Oh, gosh. I can't. I can't do it. So I went Hunter Green. You probably noticed. So when I was breaking down numbers last week for the hitters, Tyler O'Neill, and I wanted to look real quick. So the great thing about Tyler O'Neill is when he gets hot, he hits a lot of home runs in bunches. So there's this misconception that he ends up being better than he actually is. From a baseball standpoint, yeah, it's great if you hit, 4 home runs in a week. But realistically, if you're a baseball team, you'd rather have it spread out so it's more consistent. If you hit 3 home runs in 2 days, that's great, but also it's just not ideal. And for best ball, it's fantastic. The problem is O'Neill will go completely ice cold at times. So to give you an idea of the 16 weeks last year, the game weeks, and he was healthy for 14 of those game weeks, 15 technically. We can say 14 and a half. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Only 6 of those 15 game weeks did he score over 50 points. Now, the positive note is they were big. He had 2 weeks over 100. The first week and the last week, which are extended weeks, but still, dropping 100 is not easy. So the challenge is he had a week where he scored 6, a week he scored 1, and a bunch of weeks 35, 23, 23, 32, 24. So he is a real boomer bust kind of pick. And I think there's a place for those guys, and that place is normally around pick 165 to 185. Where you see Byron Buxton. That's where that guy should sit. So for me, and let's throw in the fact that he's also made out of paper mache. So for me, it's a lot to stomach when I'm already sitting on 2 outfielders that are injured right now. So just so you understand the logic there. That's why I took Hunter Green. And, oh, yeah, by the way, I think Hunter Green is an absolute stud. And speaking of being able to stay healthy, if he stays healthy, it's just going to be completely nasty. So, anyway, almost our pick, right? Here we go. Springer. I was looking. Springer was going in like the 4th and 5th rounds last year. Okay, my boy JJ Bleday, if he makes it to me. Oh, so I really want to take Bleday. Freddie Peralta almost made it to me. I'm sure you guys can see that. He just got picked at 115. That would have been awesome. Well, there goes Bleday. That's okay. I'm going to take Zach Gallen. Excited about that. So Zach made it to me. So at 124, I would like to take Kerry Carpenter. I would like to take Kerry Carpenter. I know I've completely ignored the infield. I'm not worried about that at all right now. I'm just focused on pitching and outfield. If there's not a pitcher or an outfielder I like, I will circle back around it to the infielders. But Kerry Carpenter, fingers crossed, he drops down. I mean, I'm still going to have to reach, taking him 7 points ahead. Wow, this guy just took a rise. Okay, so I ran the numbers on a rise, and I thought they were going to be kind of close to Quan. And I understand he had a finger injury last year, but he didn't have that injury until like later in the year. His numbers were not impressive. And my thought with him was he would establish a really solid floor, but he doesn't. So wait, hold on a second. I don't want to mess this up. Okay, so I've got great options here. I'd love to take Carpenter, but Grayson and oh my gosh, we could take Grayson right now. And that kind of locks in everything. Okay. Well, Danny saved me from taking Grayson. I'll get my boy Kerry Carpenter right here. I think Kerry Carpenter, if he can just stay healthy and he can be respectable against left-handed pitching, Kerry Carpenter could be that guy who all of a sudden is like a 35-40 homer guy. And people are like, what? I do not have enough Kerry Carpenter exposure. I'll tell you that much. So I was talking about something right before that. Anyway, by the way, that Sam Hubbard news was via Adam Schefter. So just to give proper credit. So it looks like we've had some people popping in, popping out. Just want to say what's up. Hope you guys are having a great day. I am midway through this dinger draft. My gosh. I don't know about you guys, but I get too many alerts about things I do not give a rat's ass about from ESPN. The ESPN alerts, they want to alert me about Stephen A. Smith said. The amount of people that care about what Stephen A. Smith said enough that they're going to click through. I mean, it has to be like single digits, right? I just can't imagine. I mean, I'm not a Stephen A. Smith fan. I think that he annoys the hell out of me. I do feel like he has strong opinions once in a while, but most of the time it's just like noise, and I just can't handle it. 140, 140. I'm in this. I'm now going to be in this kind of like outfielder abyss for this round, so I'm going to look pitching, and I don't think there's going to be any infielders that I want. So I may just actually finish out all my pitching right here. Dansby is there. Dansby is oatmeal, right? As Taylor would say, Dansby is oatmeal. It's just no. Who was that? That wasn't Taylor. That was Jump Shoot. Like it's boring, but it gets the job done. That's like Dansby Swanson in best ball. Like, okay, here's your 1,100 to 1,200 points. I did not actually. I was going to take McClanahan. How are these picks behind me? So I'm in a situation right now. 2, 3. Okay, all these guys are going to take pictures. Okay. All right, I guess I'm taking Gossman. I froze. I had a glitch. I really wanted to take Joe Ryan. I really wanted to take Joe Ryan there. I know he's not going to come back, but I really wanted to take Joe Ryan. There's a small possibility I take Dansby Swanson. Very small. So here's the thing I noticed yesterday when I was running through all these numbers with pitchers. Couple things, couple observations. And I'm not done yet. I'm about 75% of the way there. But most of the time, people that had great rotations were throwing away points almost every single week. You would have 1, 2, sometimes even 3 pitchers that were scoring over 40 points that did not even finish in your top 3. I always felt that was kind of wild. Okay, there's a small chance that Joe Ryan makes it back to me. Very small. Hopefully this guy takes an outfielder. He's in a very similar spot that I'm in right now, where he's outfield poor. Soto, Ozuna, Suzuki. I mean, his outfielders are good, though. And he just drafted 4 pitchers in a row. So hopefully he goes Dansby. He went Senga. I'm going to get Joe Ryan. That's a big win. I think I'm supposed to jump up and down or go crazy here. That's a big win for me. That gives me my 6 pitchers. I may go one more. I don't think I need to. I think these pitchers, Wheeler, Cole, Green, Gallen, Gossman, Joe Ryan, are absolutely fantastic. I don't think I need to touch my pitching the rest of the way, which means it is all hitters all the time. So when it comes back around, I'm going to end up going like TJ Friedel, Brandon Donovan. Well, we'll see how this plays out. So I was saying there's 2 things I noticed. One is that there were a lot of points that were getting thrown away. And 2 is that if you can grab a guy late, he'll contribute. And I'm not gonna switch screens to show you because obviously we're keeping up with this. But it was really interesting how I looked at certain owners' rotations, and for example, and I wish I could tell you whose rotation this was. I mean, I can. It's just going to take me a second here to get into it. You're going to have to deal with me here for just a second. This guy had Gibson. So this is not a great example, but I'm going to give you this example. So this owner, his rotation was Blake Snell, Carlos Rodon, Merrill Kelly, Christian Javier, Charlie Morton, Cutter Crawford, and Andrew Abbott. Now, obviously, we know Snell, Kelly, Javier all dealt with injuries last year. Four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Andrew Abbott finished in this owner's top 3 9 out of the 16 weeks. That's crazy. Now, that doesn't mean that Abbott was great because Andrew Abbott, for the most part, is not getting drafted this year. It doesn't mean that he was great because he wasn't, but it's a combination of there were some weeks where he was pretty solid. I couldn't tell you. I didn't actually stat Abbott, so I can't tell you how many weeks he had over 50 or even over 40. But the fact that he showed up that much was shocking. Now, this guy, this owner did not do well. Okay, I better find an outfielder, right? TJ Friedel and Brendan Donovan are my lookouts here. Can always take Conforto in a pinch. Okay, that worked out perfect. All right, kind of feels like things are going my way a little bit. Second half of the draft. Max Muncy is a really nice pick here. Not that I'm going to take him. I'm just queuing guys up. Queue them up. Queue them up. There's Jesus Sanchez. I could always grab him on the way back too. Now, ideally, what I'd like to be able to do is get rid of, let's say I'm at 5 outfielders right now. I'd like to be able to take Donovan and then potentially take Jesus Sanchez when it comes back. And then I'll just load up infielders the last 4 rounds. We'll have to see how that plays out. So there goes Donovan. So that strategy is out the window. So I can either go Conforto. And I think Conforto is a really solid ball player. I just don't think he's a really solid best ball player. But, he's in the Dodgers lineup, so. How old is Conforto? I feel like this is important. He's 32. He's going to hit 7th in that lineup, which, by the way, is probably like hitting like 4th or 5th in a lot of other lineups. So I'm not going to go Conforto. I'm actually going to go Max Muncy here. And Muncy, who's going to hit 5th in that lineup. That lineup, I mean, outside of the fact that the Dodgers are old, baseball old, not like me old. The lineup they've done an exceptional job with the lineup. Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, everybody knows those Hall of Famers. Teo's hitting cleanup. He was great last year. Muncy, who is just either walks and hits a ton of home runs when he's healthy. Terrible at third base, but also Muncy's 34. Will Smith, one of the best hitting catchers in the league, is hitting 6th. Conforto at 7th. Conforto is going to get so many RBI opportunities. Tommy Edman is hitting 8th. And Tommy Edman, when Mookie Betts gets hurt, definitely could end up hitting 2nd. And then Ha-Seong Kim, who's not going to hit at all, is their second baseman. We'll see how long that plays out. Obviously their lineup is going to be good enough that if their number 9 hitter hits $180, it's not going to be a big deal. But he's just not going to hit. I know that everybody gets all fired up about Ha-Seong Kim, that season he had like 2 or 3 years ago. But a lot of these Korean guys come over and they can't hit. They can't catch up to the fastball, and they don't hit for enough power. So I like Ha-Seong Kim, and I think he's a very serviceable shortstop. But we've just not seen it. I don't think Ha-Seong Kim's going to be any different. So he is 26. So we'll see. We'll see. Supposed to be pretty decent with the glove. Okay. Anyway, back to this. I was making a point. I got off track. I'm going to have to do it the next time we come around. Okay. So we're shooting infield. We're shooting outfield right here. Jesus Sanchez is my guy, because I still only have 5 outfielders. Josh Young is there. Oh, I love that. Nico Horner, Zach Neto. So the question for me is going to be, do I take Jesus now, or do I let it walk around? I'm going to take Young. That's all we're going to do. That's all this infield is going to do is hit home runs. That's it. With the exception of Bobby Witt, it's Olsen, Riley, Muncy, and Young. So this infield, I just need to send a memo to these guys that ideally they send out their they don't all hit their home runs in the same week, because I don't want to have a guy score 80 points and he gets wasted on the bench. But they're going to have a lot to make up for with this outfield. This outfield is garbage. Nimmo, Garcia, Thomas. I mean, keep in mind, I did get Garcia like 3 rounds late. But it's highly possible that Kerry Carpenter is going to be my number 1 outfielder. Let's just keep that in mind. As much as I would love to grab Horner or Neto, Jesus Sanchez is my guy. Oof, Brandon Marsh got taken. I was really concerned that was going to be Neto, not Neto. Sanchez. Okay. And it's not like Sanchez is this like rock star. He's a guy who can score like 1,100 points. But when you're in the 17th round and your outfield is garbage, then picking up a guy who can score 1,100 points versus somebody who's going to score like Jordan Walker, who could score 400, is just, it's a world of difference. Roman Anthony, really intriguing. If I had a great outfield right here, I would absolutely be like, screw it, let's go, Roman Anthony. I'm going to queue up. I'm actually going to queue him up. He's not going to, I don't think he'll be there when it comes back, but I'm going to queue him up. And Garrett Mitchell. I like Garrett Mitchell a lot, but I definitely need to take an outfielder so I get that 7th guy when it comes back around. Okay, so the point I wanted to make, let's do this. The point I wanted to make about pitching. So as I was talking about Andrew Abbott dropping, what was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times out of 16. I think that doesn't show per se that Abbott was great, although he did have some good weeks. I think it more indicates that when your team, and by the way, this guy finished in 6th, how injuries can completely decimate your pitching staff, and it's important on the back end to at least get guys who are going to be able to pile up innings. So I'm trying to find Gibson, San Antonio, Texas. There it is. Okay, so the guy who had Gibson only drafted 6 pitchers, but he had Nola, Cease, Bassett, Pivetta, and Evaldi. He had a really solid rotation. And just to kind of give you a little insight on this, Cease was obviously great last year. 12 of the 16 weeks, he had over 40 points. He averaged 53.7 points. Nola was also pretty solid. Nola also had 2 weeks where he dropped 100. 9 out of the 16 weeks, which is kind of that like magic number. 9 out of the 16, he had over 40 points. He averaged 46.9. I got to get ready for this pick now. I am going to take Garrett if he sticks. I know we're kind of bouncing around a little bit right now, but just stick with me. I'll bounce back on that. That's pretty interesting data. Okay. Wow, Lodolo is still there. Well, I'm not going to take him, but Lodolo is there at 194, and that is free. And there's still like Tommy Edmonds, Zach Geloff, Brandon Lau, Bryce Terang. There's still some really solid infield options. I'm going to take my guy Mitchell right here. I like Mitchell. Obviously, he's got to stay healthy, like the rest of my team. But I do like Mitchell here. And last draft, I talked about how, you can just, there's infield depth. Now, I don't want to shoot myself in the foot here, but there's plenty of infield depth. So if I needed to just go 4 infielders the last 4 rounds, I could do that pretty easy. But we'll see how this plays out. Obviously, my infield's really solid, so I'm not overly concerned. Witt, Olsen, Riley, Muncy, Young. Streaky, very streaky. As long as Young doesn't get hit by a pitch and break his wrist, and anyway, I'd really like to see Josh Young play a full season. 158 games. All right. I'm just waiting until I can knock this pick out. Lodolo's still there. Somebody just took Bassett. Bassett was going around 190 before, but there's obviously some concerns about him getting up in age. He had a dip last year. I'm not a huge fan of Bassett personally. Kind of rubs me the wrong way, but he was at least pretty consistent. Wow, this guy took Beck in the 19th. Interesting. So Nico Horner dropped. So I'll take Nico if he ends up missing a week or two. I'm okay with that. And then ideally I've got Edman, Geloff, Lau, and Terrain queued up. So hopefully I can just grab one of those guys on the back end. And we're wrapped up for this draft. So the point I want to make, I was talking about this rotation. Nola, Cease, Bassett, Pivetta. And Bassett, by the way, let's take a quick look. Rough year last year. Bassett, 8 out of 16 weeks, scored over 40, only averaged 39.3. That's a really low number. He had 1 week where he scored -1, 1 week where he scored 12. So that's obviously going to have a big impact. What I'd really be curious about, and I'm not sure how I'll extrapolate these numbers, but what I'd be curious about is a pitcher's average when he does score over 40 type thing. Anyway, Pivetta was hurt for 5 of the 16 weeks, but out of the 11 weeks, he scored over 40.7 of the 11 weeks. That's really good. So that's more or less, if he would have stayed healthy, probably would have been around 9 or 10, which is great. And Eovaldi was 9 out of 13. He was hurt for 3 of the weeks, but he produced 40 or more 9 out of the 13 weeks, averaged 45 points. It's really solid for Eovaldi. Now, the reason why I tell you guys these things is because I want you to, I'm going to give you something else, but I want you to understand this rotation only had 6 guys. Yes, it dealt with some injuries, but they were pretty good. Nola, obviously, Cease was fantastic. Bassett was probably the worst of them. Pivetta was hurt a little bit. Eovaldi was hurt a little bit. Like Pivetta was hurt 5 weeks. Eovaldi was hurt 2 weeks. Excuse me. With that being said, Gibson finished in the top 3 6 of the 16 weeks. So having that guy makes a difference. Like your picks late do matter. They will have an impact. I looked at a team that had, oh my gosh, I'm having trouble with his last name. So Severino and Stroman. And what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 9 out of the 16 weeks, either Stroman or Severino was in his top 3. And he was one of the top scoring teams in that pod. All right, so this should be easy for me. We're 2 picks away. I've got Geloff and Terrain queued up. Terrain dropped almost 1,200 points last year, and I think it looks like Terrain is going to be slated to hit second behind Chourio. No, just kidding. So Roster Resource is saying Yelich is going to hit second, which does make a lot of sense, at least until he gets hurt. And Terrain's going to hit 6th. Would not surprise me if they actually hit Terrain 9th. Oh, the clock's going to run out on me, huh? I was trying to. I'm taking Geloff, by the way. I was trying to see where they've got Geloff hitting 6 as well. So I'm still holding out hope on Geloff. I think if he figure things out, they move to that more hitter friendly ballpark. He's definitely a guy who can have 20 bombs and 20 steals. If he can start to figure out the other part of that game. I just want to look real quick. I don't think I tracked Geloff last year because, well, it was terrible. Especially the front half of the year. It was terrible. But he had 17 home runs and 25 stolen bases. And I'm going to look at this real quick. And this is a guy who the year before was absolutely raking when he came up. So I still have belief. Last year his slash was 267, 337, 504. I'm sorry, that was 2023. 2024, it was 211, 270, 362. His slug just was not there. Only had 39 extra base hits. Keep in mind, the year before he had 35 in half the amount of games. So when you look at his 2023 and he had 70 games, you double in that, you're like, wow, if this guy does what he should be able to do, that's 70 extra base hits. Also moving to a more hitter-friendly ballpark. Not like it's going to be a launching pad, but it's a more hitter-friendly ballpark. We'll see how it plays out. So I'm gonna roll with Geloff there. Do like the upside that late in the draft, that's for sure. So anyway, that's I think that's going to wrap it up. I know it's been a minute since I had done a stream, and I thought it was important to jump in to show the differences. Obviously, if you watch my last stream and you watch this stream, you're going to see a lot of different movement. And now I have some additional data to be able to share that is influencing my draft. So unfortunately, I will say this was one of my worst drafts probably in a week or so, but that's okay. I mean, the pitching staff is rock solid. I won't have to worry about that. The infield is really interesting. You could say it's top heavy with Witt, Olsen, and Riley. And then I just need Muncy, Young, Horner, and Geloff to kind of contribute here and there. And then my outfield is just a dumpster fire. So obviously you don't want to punt a position, but I do have a ton of upside. So if Nimmo and Garcia aren't seriously injured, then I have great value for Garcia and drafted Nimmo about where he should have got taken. Hopefully Lane Thomas can hit righties a little better this year. Kerry Carpenter, if he's able to stay healthy, and it's the same thing with TJ Friedel. You know, those guys are 1,200 to 1,300 point guys. Jesus Sanchez can chip in. And if Garrett Mitchell can stay healthy, that guy could be huge for the Brew Crew. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Hope you guys have a great day. If you got any comments, make sure you drop them. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys later. If I have a chance to do another stream tomorrow, I will absolutely jump on. Catch you guys later. See ya.